Hey, I'm T.A. Charlie, and welcome to The Road to Concord with Professor Joe Bakanovic. Homeroom is on Rumble. You just go to Rumble and search the channels for The Road to Concord. It's one word. When you find it, you go ahead and you click follow. It might mean you got to set up an account, but it's fast, it's easy, it's free. I did it, you can do it. For those technologically challenged members of the class, you can also catch us on Facebook and YouTube. After the show, it's uploaded to Podbean, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and BitChute. Just look for The Road to Concord. You can go to the blog page, that's theroadtoconcord.com. That's where you'll find all your show notes, study notes, and handouts for the class. The phone is working. If you don't know how to call in, email us and we'll think about it. Finally, you can email a professor at joe@theroadtoconcord.com. He's a little slow, but he'll eventually get around to emailing you back. This show is currently mainly listener-sponsored. If you are interested in advertising your business on the show, please email us. With that said, we ask for your participation on a value-for-value basis. If you find our show of value to you, then you provide an equivalent portion of your labor and treasure through the donate link on the Road to Concord blog page, the show description on Rumble, and in the comments on the other streams. And thank you to all of you who have and will support this show.
Good morning. It's Monday, 12 January 2026. This is The Road to Concord. I'm your host, Joe Bakanovic. The title is not meant to be provocative. I'm actually seriously trying to figure out what Trump and the Republican Party are doing. We'll get to that into a moment. I will tomorrow. I don't know if you subscribe to the blog page, theroadtoconcord.com. Hopefully you do. We've got tomorrow's homework up. Some of you thought that we'd be doing the philosophy class today. Sorry to disappoint. We're going to be talking, I guess, what the world would call conspiracy theory here in a minute. But we're going to start with a new segment that I'm going to kind of call this one, well, that's not going to end well. And here it is. Gateway Pundit, January 10th, 2026. Hilarious. Woke white female convert lectures Muslims on how they treat women and the LGBT community. And then there's a video down here that you can watch. Charlie, you see what I mean? You know, that's not going to end well, folks. And what has me...
Yeah, that amuses me, but when the LGBT community, here we go. Yeah.
Yeah. But now, hold on. Seriously, honest to gosh, seriously here. I want teachable moment. When the American left aligns itself with Islam, thinking that, well, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. That's not true. In the case of Islam, they'll pretend to be your ally against the Christian, Judeo-Christian West. But as soon as they have power, they're going to come after you as well. They're American leftist, Democrat, whatever you are. So you can go ahead and think that we're freedom fighting for Palestine. No, you're not. You're aiding Islam until such time as they're ready to eat you. So they'll just fat you up there, chattel. But when they get strong enough in an area, they will take over, a la Minnesota and Dearborn, Michigan, parts of Michigan. This is what's happening right now in this country. And this is not, well, I don't mean this as a joke. I really don't. And I honest to God, folks, I don't know how to make people understand. Here's the next. This is from the Congressional Insider. $700 million airport cash haul under federal probe. Now, I don't know if you've seen this, but the highlights from the story. TSA flagged nearly $700 million in cash found in passenger luggage over multiple years at Minneapolis airport. It comes out to, it's for a year and a half, almost 2 years. It comes out to roughly $1 million a day. The FBI and the DHS is investigating potential unlicensed money transmitting business. No. Folks, this was, when you look into this, this was suitcases full of cash. Now you say, well, Joe, no. I'm sorry, folks. If this stuff goes through the x-ray machines, it will pop up. I guarantee you it's going to pop up because of all the little strips in your money. So you're going to know that that's cash money in there. And there is no way, even in the corrupt state of Minnesota, there's no way that didn't come to federal attention. With the FBI, Department of Homeland Security, somebody in Washington, D.C. knew about this and looked the other way. This money is going to Islamic terrorists. Straight up. So, Joe, you don't have proof of that. I don't need it. I understand what's going on in Somalia and who runs it. I don't need it. I would need it if I had to prove this in a court of law. I don't. I told you before, I'm operating to the certainty level of military intelligence. So what I'm saying is, if I was in charge of a military operation and I said, is this enough information for me to drop a bomb on the recipients? Yes, it is. Go ahead and nuke them. Well, you might be getting some innocents, 1 or 2. Yeah. I'm that positive about this. This is Just the News reported Tuesday. That's another site by, I think his name is John Solomon. Oh my gosh, Charlie, I'm remembering names really clearly lately. You're right. I need to go see the doctor.
Yeah, there's something wrong with you.
And if y'all out there don't know the joke here, this is not a joke. I've been remembering names fairly accurately for a while now. That's a problem. There is a glitch in the matrix. So, Just the News reported Tuesday that the Transportation Security Administration detected and flagged nearly $700 million in cash moved in luggage out of Minneapolis airport by Somali couriers in 2024 and 2025 alone, a stunning total that averaged nearly 1 million a day. That is a problemo. That's just what they 2024 and 2025, they knew about it, folks. They knew about it. And this was happening under Trump's administration as well. Well, he can't get to everything all at once. Yeah, yeah, okay. You hold on to that, boys and girls. I guarantee you I'd be able to have gotten to it if I was in Trump's shoes. Guarantee you. Of course, they'd have assassinated me by now, because I'd have handled things a whole lot different. Start right here, right now. Say, well, the deep state's more trouble than you realize, Joe, and the left had, the Democrats have their closets. I don't give a rat's rip. The government, well, big business and the bankers, Joe, the government is stronger. No, it isn't. Yes, it is. And Obama and George H.W. Bush proved it. Do you remember back during the insurance crisis when they forced companies to take a loan, brought them in, sat them down and said, you will, and they did it. Well, how much bigger can you be than the auto industry? It's about the top of the heap. You know, they're up there with Big Pharma and a couple of other people. And they did this to the insurance industry as well. That's really big. That's even bigger than big auto, because now you're dealing with banking. And they did this. What they proved is the government is stronger than corporate America. It's even bigger than the Federal Reserve and big banking if it wants to flex its muscles. So let's say, excuse me, pardon me. Let's say the world is exactly like the conspiracy theories think. The Illuminati and the big bankers run the world. And you can't go against them or they'll kill you, just like FDR. I mean, not, like JFK, rather. Just like they supposedly did to JFK. Let's assume that's true. Now let's say I get into office and I am the true radical that Trump ran as. Let's just say that they elect radical Joe Bakanovic and I'm in office. First thing I do is purge the entire executive. Hey, you're all fired. Well, Joe, you can't do that. You wouldn't have been able to get it. Oh, yes, I would have. I had 2 years to run for president. I'd have already had everybody's replacement picked out. I had 2 years to get this done. I'd have people ready, all the way down to the broom, the guy who pushes the broom in whatever executive corporate. I'd fire them all. Joe, the court would come up and say, you can't. I would ignore them. Well, Joe, you can't ignore. Yes, I can. If the Constitution places that particular department under the authority of the executive, and then the Supreme Court comes and says, well, that's not what it means, I'd be like, you know what? We're co-equal. I can interpret that Constitution the same way you do, and it says this is the authority of the executive. Go pound sand. So now, while you're waiting for Congress to impeach me, I am going to run wild within the law, arresting everybody that I know is guilty of things. Like Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama would have both been arrested for treason on day one. They'd have had the metal bracelets on. Bloop, bloop. Say, well, Joe, what are you going to charge them with? I just told you, treason. Well, you don't have proof of that. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. It's been in the public media. There is enough that has been reported in the quote unquote mainstream media to charge them and try them for treason. Now, if it turns out the media lied, guess what I'd do then? I'd put a lot of those media executives in jail. So you have free press. You can print anything you want. But this idea that you're immune from what you print, that's not in the Constitution. You can still be prosecuted for what you do. And if you are knowingly publishing information that messes with the free operation of the Republican system of government, it's called election fraud, not voter fraud, election fraud. Russiagate was election fraud. You were messing with the electorate by feeding them misinformation for the purposes of helping one candidate over another. That's not editorial support. That's election fraud. That's disinformation. You didn't put that out as an opinion. In the court of law, I can put you in jail for that. And I could prove it. So I'd clean house on the quote unquote mainstream media. Well, Joe, you can't do that. They're corporations. That corporation would cease to exist. I'd end it. I wouldn't fine it. I would end it. And the entire board would be defending themselves trying to stay out of jail. This is all legal. And I wouldn't have, they're going to be like, well, the DOJ, you're not going to have an attorney general because Congress is going to be against you, Joe. They're not going to approve your people. That's easy too. That's real easy. I'd send Congress home. I'd dismiss them. Well, Joe, you don't have the authority to do that. You might want to reread that Constitution a little bit. So I'd send them all home and I'd make recess appointments for everybody. In 90 days, I'd clear all this mess out, Jack. There wouldn't be a deep stater left in my administration. Now, they would come kill me. And you say, well, you can't do it. Yes, I can. Just because you don't want to suffer the ramifications does not mean it cannot be done. Just like George Soros, make me president. Day one, he gets rounded up and sent to whoever wants me to extradite him. We'll find out whether or not he's guilty of anything. Off you go. And there are certain countries that want him very badly that, well, we may never see him again. Not my problem. His. Bill Gates, crimes against humanity. Fauci, crimes against humanity. Head of the Fed, oh yeah. Yeah. We're going to have at you for that too. The Fed's been destroying this country ever since it was appointed. Most of Congress would end up in jail. I'd just get them for insider trading. Say, well, the law exempts me. It only applies to the serfs. Well, the founding fathers said that that's not a law. So it's null and void. Well, the Supreme Court, I don't care. I have the equal opportunity to adjudicate the Constitution as the Supreme Court does. We're equal, remember? That's in there. Equal but separate. Yeah, but the Supreme Court handles those type of things. No. There's no you handle this and I handle that. That's not assigned anywhere in that way. And go read the section covering the judges. There's none of this judicial review anywhere in the Constitution. No. Read the Federalist Papers, the way the federal courts were set up. That's not what they do. So don't tell me this cannot be done. It can be done. But this is where Steve Deace is right. There's no political will amongst you and I to do this. If there was, we would demand this. But we're not going to do that. We're just going to sit and complain on social media because it's a vent. Welcome to the love child of Orwell's 1984 and Huxley's Brave New World. You live in it. Congratulations. You're in the Matrix. Literally. We'll get to that before the end of the show. But I have some more stories for you here. Okay, this one, most of these are from the Gateway Pundit. This is January 12th. ICE resistance groups growing. Some funded by Soros, some from the U.S. government, and they're linked to terrorism. This is known. If you are linked to terrorism, why are you not wearing handcuffs? Patriot Act would put you in jail with a lot less, a lower bar of proof. Why is Soros not in handcuffs? Just more media hype. You're being stirred up. One side against the other. Nobody's in jail. Why? And this one, 18-year-old pleads guilty to murdering his mom and stepdad in order to fund his Trump assassination plot. Now, I'm sure the media has no culpability in this. It's just like, watching violent video games does not make you less sensitive to shooting people in real life, except that the United States military uses violent video games to desensitize soldiers to shooting people in real life. So Congress will say that's not a thing, but the United States military says it is a thing. I don't care what you flappers say. I care what you're doing. So if the military is going to use video games to desensitize people to shooting other human beings, yes, heck, it does have a thing. Yeah. Violent video games are a factor. They're part of this equation in our society today. So are psychiatric drugs, and so is the United States, mainstream media pushing Trump derangement syndrome. Trump is Hitler. Trump is Hitler. Trump is Hitler. You don't think you're going to get an 18-year-old try to kill him? They know they will. They're hoping one of them is going to succeed one day. That's exactly what they're wanting. Even if Trump is one of them, they still hope he succeeds one day. So, it's sacrificial lamb to the cause. If you think I'm crazy, you haven't been on this show long enough. And the big thing is you haven't been following behind me and checking out the receipts I bring you. You have to read what these people write. You have to start understanding how this group thinks. They have boasted about all of this. I got into it with somebody on Facebook just this past week. Says I'm a conspiracy kook. I said, no, I just read what they write and I honor the threat. He's like, well, prove it to me. And I told him, go here and here. He's like, no, and I'm like, you know what? I'm done. You've just proved my point. You're a useful idiot. See you later. Goodbye. I have no use for those people anymore. They are just animals good for nothing but to be led to the slaughter. Not my words, the Apostle Peter. Gateway Pundit again. The Democrats' war on ICE, vilification and encouraging quote-unquote resistance that leads to violence. And then I'm sure you've seen this. There's a meme on the Facebook right now going around 57 times. Sick, unhinged Democrats declare war on law enforcement. That is the very, very definition of subversion. I have shown you multiple times on this show the federal law covering this. It's punishable by 10 years in jail for each count, plus what's a $10,000 or something fine or something like that for each count. Now, if this is being funded, organized and funded in any way, now you have sedition. And if it is organized and funded across state lines, now you have a rebellion. Trump has everything he needs to declare an insurrection and lock this country down under martial law. And he's got a precedent. I don't like this president, but he's got a precedent, a la Abraham Lincoln. And he could clean house, Jack. Why doesn't he? Because now you're in military tribunal. And I got a little newsflash for you. That's real easy to get conviction in a military tribunal. because I don't have to prove beyond reasonable doubt. And plus, I'm trying you for different things that don't come up in civilian court of law as often. Why isn't Trump doing this? Didn't he learn anything in 2020? I say he did. I say he knows exactly what he's doing. Otherwise, I have to assume Trump is stupid. I do not assume Trump is stupid. He and his handlers have shown that they're very brilliant when they want to be. Next one. Again, Gateway Pundit again, January 11th. Minnesota reporter assists in doxing of ICE agent who killed leftist agitator in self-defense, leading to death threats against the agent. Reporter's X account nuked after getting called out. If you're going to dox, in other words, expose the agent, there's only one reason to do that. There's only one reason for somebody, for what this reporter did, and she's an activist. She's trying to get that man killed. This is like when you SWAT somebody. You know, when you call in a fake report to 911, you say so-and-so is beating his wife, and the police show up, and you're hoping that the guy or gal will accidentally get killed by the police. You know, SWAT team, you're trying to get them killed by cop. This is an active, it's passive, but it's active. This is an ongoing, that's what I mean by active. It's a continuing threat on this man's life. Now, it's passive in the fact that she hasn't picked up a gun. She's trying to rile up other people, aim them and point them at this agent and have him killed by other agents. But it's still an ongoing operation that she's trying to get this agent killed. So it's an active passive attack.
It's a military operation that gives you,
yes, it is,
called plausible deniability.
Mm-hmm. So you understand what I meant by active, Charlie. It's not active in the fact that she's doing it. It's active that it's an ongoing operation. Okay, still with the Gateway Pundit. Border czar Tom Homan reveals ICE agent in Renee Good shooting is now receiving death threats after being doxxed. Fears for safety of him and his family. Find the people making the threats. Oh, they can't do that. Oh, bull. Bull. You are the... All right, folks. We got to have a little chat. You have the FBI and you have the CIA. They're very powerful. You have all sorts of military intelligence. They're very powerful. Anybody does anything electronically, and you say, well, I can't find him. There is an agency in this country that knows exactly who you are and exactly where you are. You cannot hide from them. Say, well, the people threatening them are supercomputer hackers like Charlie. Am I not supposed to tell them who this is?
You can't tell them about no such agency. Shh.
Exactly. I can't tell you about the NSA.
They don't exist, even though they're using all the water in Utah and power.
Yes. Even though, well, I better not say that. I could legally get in trouble for that one. I guarantee you, say like, well, all the Epstein files are missing. No, they're not.
No, they're not.
I guarantee you they're somewhere in that storage unit in Utah.
Oh, yeah, probably. Yeah.
They hoover up anything and everything that's electronically transmitted across the globe. Even your hardline telephone lines, they don't have to tap them, folks.
Nope.
They can listen in on your phone conversations from an airplane miles away.
Yeah.
They've been able to do this
That's the thing
since
that
the
people
80s.
don't understand is even landline telephones, at some point in their connectivity, go over radio waves that can be picked up and scraped so easily.
Yes.
So yeah.
And this is why you never hear when people say no such agency, NSA, no such agency. We're making fun of it. This is why you never hear about the NSA being discussed. They'll bash the FBI and the DOJ and the CIA.
You hardly ever hear about NSA.
You will not hear about the NSA.
You never hear anything about them. There's
a reason for that. Everything the CIA and all other intelligence communities do gets reported back to the NSA. Everything.
Yeah.
The NSA. That's why I'll tell you that they did not bring the buildings down on 9/11. That wasn't. No. The conspiracy theories are wrong. But I guarantee you the government knew about it.
They knew about it.
I guarantee you they knew about it and let it happen. And you're dealing with people who will allow tens of thousands of Americans to die just so they can protect their methodology. They do this. That's just part of their life. That they're comfortable with that. Because their means
black
of
ops.
Yeah, their means of acquiring their intelligence. They want to protect those means because they think their intelligence is the most valuable thing in the world. And
Makes
in
a
this
good
modern
TV
day and
show.
age,
Kind of like
yeah.
X-Files that we played last week. Yeah.
So, folks, they know. They know who's doing this. Go get them. You don't have to reveal how you found out who they are. If the NSA tells you, oh, you know, Joe Schmuckatelli over here in Philadelphia is the one making the threat through the internet, go arrest Joe Schmuckatelli. When his defense lawyer says, how'd you find out? Oh, well, the FBI got it through intelligence tracking. They don't have to tell the truth. No, the government's lying. No, all the NSA has to do is drop an email in the FBI's, inbox with the link to how to find this stuff without ever telling them who sent them the email. Just giving them an anonymous tip. The FBI will track it up and they'll find it. It can be done legally. It can be done legally, even though the NSA is entirely outside constitutional authority.
Yeah.
It's what it does is totally illegal.
Yes.
It's even illegal according to the Patriot Act.
Yeah.
Say, well, Joe, Charlie, you and I have got to be conspiracy kooks talking about this because if we were correct, people know about it, right?
Yeah.
How the heck do you think we found out?
Yeah.
We know where to look. That's all. That's it. All righty. Let's get back to the fun and games here. Again, in the Gateway Pundit, if I can get this to go where it belongs. Here we go. Another one. Caught on camera. Laura Ingraham scores big time as leftist protester accidentally admits she's getting paid right now after being asked if she has a job. We know these people are being paid to protest. We know they are transported across state lines. We know that they are organized and equipped. We know that some of this funding comes directly from the federal government. That means you are in a state of war with the federal government. By definition, we are in a civil war. This also means that the entire federal government is guilty because none of them are doing anything about this. Folks, this is proof of the uniparty. Although you won't look at it that way because you're told not to, because you're told, oh, that's conspiracy theory stuff. No, this is hard proof of uniparty. If you had a true opposition party that believed in the Constitution and the rule of law, they would scarf that young lady up and they would send her to Gitmo and she would tell them everything she knows about everybody in the organization. You'd scarf them up, send them to Gitmo, and eventually you'd get to the people funding this. And it doesn't matter. You don't get constitutional protections when you're at war with the United States. That lady, under the Geneva Convention, could be shot in the head right now. And you'd be under the Geneva Convention, you'd be innocent because she is technically, Charlie, pop on here real quick. She's in a state of war with the United States of America, the people, and she's not wearing a uniform. What's that make her?
Yep.
A spy, right?
Well, yeah, spy would fall under spy.
Do I have to give spies a trial under the Geneva Convention?
I don't believe so.
No, I don't. They have no rights. They can be executed on the spot. She's a spy. She's also a guerrilla combatant out of uniform. She can be shot on sight. But because we won't declare this what it is.
That makes him an unlawful combatant under Geneva terms, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. She's an unlawful combatant there to interrupt and get in the way of the lawful execution of the duly elected government of this country. That is the constitutional definition of waging war against the United States of America. But because we won't call the monster what it is, because, this is why you don't declare war. Once you declare war, you're saying, I'm going to do everything I can to win it. If I declare this what it actually is, its form and function, then, oh my God, somebody's got to do something to stop this. And they don't want to. Because if they do, they'll eventually have to arrest themselves.
Yeah.
Betrayal. Senate Appropriations Committee votes to allocate over $5 billion in taxpayer-funded welfare to refugees. Here are the 14 Republicans who voted yes. So the House is going to give money to Obamacare. The Senate's going to still give money to, not refugees, illegal aliens. Let me ask you a serious question. Why do you keep voting Republican? They keep doing the Democrats' job. How do we vote our way out of this when all that's going to happen is the Republicans keep doing the same thing that the deep state tells them to do? Just in, Rhino Tillis threatens to block Fed nominations over Powell criminal investigation. So if there's allegations of crime at the Federal Reserve and the president does his job and starts to investigate it, he's not a rhino. He's a Republican. So he's going to block Trump's nominations to keep Trump from doing what he's constitutionally mandated to do. Remove this man. He's no longer a congressman or senator. Remove him from office. He's violated his oath of office. He's not a rhino. Stop using that term. He is a Republican. Another one. I know that we got the break coming up. Representative Byron Donalds blasts Senate for stonewalling SAVE Act. House passed bill would require proof of citizenship to vote in federal elections. One of the primary things that the Republicans ran on, now that they're in office, they won't do anything about it. Why? Why should I keep voting for people who have decade after decade proven to me through their actions that they will not do what I elect them to do? Well, Joe, we've got to give them 150 senators. Well, then you'd have 150 senators in a body that's only supposed to have 100 members. They'd all be Republicans. And, well, Joe, we got the 80 rhinos in there. So now I need 200 Republicans so that you can give me 120 good ones. So now I've doubled up on the Senate, 100 more than you're supposed to have, all Republicans. Well, dang it, Joe, somehow or another, we got 150 rhinos in there now. No. Been electing Republicans the whole time. Yeah, it's the Democrats. I know that. I'm not defending the Democrats, and anybody who thinks I am, get gone. You don't belong on this show. You don't. Bye. See ya. Don't let the electronic door hit you in the big caboose. I'm not defending them. I'm just telling you that we know that threat. The people pretending to be the cure to that threat are a worse enemy. We know that the Democratic Party is COVID. The Republican Party is the jab. And with that, we'll take our 3-minute break. All right, we're back. I'm just going to get into this. Hopefully that you've been part of this show for a while and you're going to recognize some of these quotes. Y'all, stop electing party members. Yeah, well, the problem with that is independents can't defeat the party system, especially when it's one party pretending to be two. Because no matter which one you elect, Republicans or Democrats, you're going to get the agenda. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, in politics, nothing happens by accident. If it happens, you can bet it was planned that way. That does not necessarily mean the politician's the one who planned it. Yes, there are people in the background that you don't know their names. We never will. And I'm not talking star count chambers and Illuminati and everything, but there are still people in the background pulling strings. I don't think we know any of their names, at least not really. And they have a great deal of influence on what happens and how it's done. And Kissinger would be one of the names that we might know who's actually a hand in this. Henry Kissinger, when he was alive. But I'm going to believe what old FDR has to tell me. So now, let's look at some. I'm not the only one who's thinking this way. Emerald Robinson, I don't know if you follow her. She's got a Substack page and a blog page. I follow her sometimes. I read some of what she writes. It says, when Democrats have a razor-thin 2-seat majority in the Senate, they get the entire Democratic agenda. When the GOP has a razor-thin 2-seat majority in the House, they get the entire Democratic agenda passed. See how this works? So you see, she's pointing out that it doesn't matter, that the Democratic agenda still gets passed no matter what. And if you will go back and you will look, even, Newt Gingrich passed the Republican agenda under Clinton. No, I don't think so. No, Newt said he is a real politician just like Wilson. I think that was all kabuki theater. I think they passed that way. They did the contract with America on purpose. And I think Clinton knew exactly what he was doing, because he could have easily vetoed it. The Republicans could have pushed that over top of his veto. The Democrats never allow anything to happen unless they want it to. And the Republican Party is there to help them do that. The Democrats advance the ball. The Democrats play defense and make sure that you can't put the ball back down the other way. Now, this is James Woods. He's pretty good on the right. He says, how do Republicans hold all the power yet can't bring criminals to justice? But Democrats push all these hoaxes through and hold hearings nonstop. Is there one single Republican with the cojones besides Trump? Just one? I don't think Trump has them either, Mr. Woods, because he could order these arrests. Do y'all know that Trump has the authority to go arrest you himself? He can arrest you. He's the head executive. It's like he's the chief district prosecutor in the whole country. He can do it. That's what it means to be the executive. The district attorney and the DOJ just work as his agents. They're essentially deputies. So why? Why is nothing being done? And this is James Woods again. The true enemy of America is the Republican Party, surprisingly. The Democrats will always complain, grift, cheat, and gleefully ignore the law. Who will stop them? In a real two-party system, it would be Republicans. But they are weak, milquetoast, losers who do nothing but talk. That's true. That's true. Mr. Woods is figuring it out, but he's still excusing Trump. Now, as far as the courts go, if we don't stop corruption in the courtrooms, it doesn't matter what your politics are. And that's been set up that way on purpose. Well, the courts have jurisdiction over that. We got to do whatever the courts say. No, you don't. Hence the road to Concord. Go read the founding fathers. Read the Federalist Papers. Read the anti-Federalist Papers. If the courts rule that something is constitutional or unconstitutional and it's clearly against what the founding fathers say, the court, you don't have to impeach the judges, you just ignore the court. You can do that. Congress and the president just keeps on trucking like it was a 2-3 decision. You just ignore the court. That is how this system's supposed to work. But the court seized what they call judicial supremacy. We're the final vote on what the law does and doesn't mean. No, you're not. You were just one of 3. Emerald Robinson again. Don't listen to anyone who tells you to be patient while the days go by and nobody gets arrested. Don't trust anybody. We played that game in the first Trump administration and we lost. Demand results every day. I was very excited when Kash Patel and Dan Bongino got into the FBI. I now see that either Dan Bongino and Kash Patel have been part of the deep state all along, and they're put into positions just like Trump was to keep conservatives from starting a true second party, or the best of men are immediately corrupted as soon as they get into DC, or it's a combination of both. I don't know. I can't tell you that. All I can tell you from the position I'm looking at is nobody can be trusted once they get to DC anymore. If you get into the federal government and at the state levels, even here locally, I live in an area where my governor, DeSantis, knows we have a corrupt government in the Bay County. And he's got the authority as governor to come in here and remove these people. Nobody's doing anything. Oh, let the system play out. The system is part of the corruption. Come in and remove all of them, Governor DeSantis. Oh, but no. We will not remove the corrupt from office. I hear Isaiah and Jeremiah and Ezekiel and Zechariah and Hosea ringing in my ears right now about corrupt judges and leaders and kings and rulers and teachers. What are you going to do, boys and girls? Well, the feds won't make any arrests, people, because they're in on all of it. I firmly believe that now. Occam's razor. Well, never a credit to conspiracy what can be explained by stupidity. You can't explain this much with stupidity. Over this many years, with this many people at this many levels, stupidity and incompetence does not explain that. Uniparty does. Uniparty does. It's the simplest answer. It's just pattern recognition, boys and girls. So, in politics, nothing happens by accident. They're not arrested on purpose, which just makes our frustration grow. And the corrupt can flaunt it in our face, steal from us, give to people who are here illegally, people who want to destroy the country, and it just makes our frustration grow. They're pushing for somebody to pull the trigger. And that brings me to this meme. What are you thinking about, old buddy? Charlie Brown says to Snoopy. You know, they're sitting on the dock. We're looking at him from behind. And Snoopy says, we are all being manipulated on a scale so incredibly large that it's difficult to fathom. Well, that is, if you're going to tell a lie, tell a whopper, because nobody will ever believe it. And that's what Snoopy's saying. We are being manipulated, told such a big lie that nobody will possibly believe it. Well, I love this meme here. It says, the ultimate tyranny in a society is not controlled by martial law. It is controlled by the psychological manipulation of the consciousness. This way, those who exist within this society do not even realize they are in prison. The great suppression is that of the consciousness. Joe Martino. This is Brave New World. Aldous Huxley. The tyranny everybody's looking for is 1984, where you're held down by the boot of somebody. Aldous Huxley was a gilded cage that you actually defend and support and revel in. Congratulations. You live in the Matrix. Aldous Huxley proved to be more correct than Orwell. That was probably a dispute between the Fabian socialists. So which way should we go? With an iron boot or through subterfuge. Well, the subterfuge won, but they stole a few things from the Iron Boot, like the video surveillance of everybody at all times in the news speak language used to control thought, and the 5-minute hate. That we'll get to that 5-minute hate here thing in just a minute. It's right here. Incident happens. Outrage. That's the hate. We tell you who to hate. A narrative forms. It was an innocent mom just trying to go home, and the ICE agent murdered her in cold blood. People fight each other. That's what's going on now. There's zero accountability. It's just elect more of me. Nothing changes. We find out that they're just stealing hundreds of millions of dollars in Minnesota. Oh, quick. I'm outraged about this. Whatever the narrative was, people are starting to fight each other. Quick, somebody shoot, arrange for somebody to get shot. Whatever. There it is, folks. That's the Matrix. That's it. It's a story that never ends. Around, around, around. Nobody ever goes to jail. Why? Because you and I don't demand it. You see what's going on in Iran? Yeah, Joe, but they're killing people. Uh-huh. But the Iranians are willing to die for liberty. You and I no longer are. We can't even get ourselves out of our fat, lazy couches to go to the seats of government and congregate in the street and demand accountability. I don't recognize this country. It's not the one that I know and love. Comment on the board from Barbara Stratton. It says, when I worked for NCIC, I asked an FBI agent why we are just watching organized crime and documented corruption. And he told me, in a republic, citizens have the choice to allow corruption. FBI only gets involved when an actual crime occurs. Corruption is a crime. What the heck's wrong with that FBI agent? Corruption is a crime. It's a violation of every state law and federal law that I know about. It violates RICO statutes. That FBI agent's part of the problem, Miss Stratton. Right there, folks. There's everything that it's just giant conspiracy theory, tragedy and hope, a history of the world in our time by Carol Quigley. It's a long book. It's on audio. You can listen to it. Take you a while to work your way through it. It's kind of a boring listen, unless you're paying attention to what he says. He's part of the Trilateralist Commission. He's an insider. He's one of the they. He told you what's going on. Nobody wants to listen. Read the book. He's a prophet now. There's a follow-up, Tragedy and Hope, so many years later or whatever. Shows you that exactly what he told us was going to happen has happened. It's all about control. It's all about control. Right? It's all about control. I don't think so. I don't think so. See, I like this meme right here. And they're actually pushing this now. The Mandela effect has to be nothing but the result of quantum sliding. We did something somewhere that we caused a rift in the quantum universe with the parallel universes and, all this stuff. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, do a little research. There are people thinking that we ended the world and we're now living in some sort of matrix, some sort of artificial computer program or whatever. So that's the easiest thing to explain, right? Otherwise, it would be the results of a grand conspiracy to seed confusion and doubt. Occam's razor, dude. The quantum slide is easier to understand. Actually, no, it isn't. No. If you understand what they're arguing, that's not easy to explain at all, especially since it's just pulled out of the rear end of the southbound mule. No, the easier one is that there's a grand conspiracy to seed confusion and doubt. So what do we do with it? Well, first of all, you got to remember where the grand conspiracy comes from. What the heck? My computer doesn't want to behave. The grand conspiracy is right here. How's your spiritual warfare going, boys and girls? Because ultimately, the grand conspiracy is the spiritual war. Y'all remember this one? How's your spiritual warfare going? So what are we going to do? Okay. Bringing all this up is I've been trying to figure out what we do with this. I honestly don't know. This is, I don't know how to push this type of effect. That's not what I'm good at. Now, if you could hold a constitutional convention and you wanted somebody to help you reconstruct the Constitution a little tighter, a little more correctly, now I'm in on that. I think I'm actually qualified for that conversation. I'd love to be a part of that effort, but I don't know how to get us to that point. Well, I'll take that back. I don't know how to get us to that point in a way that America would accept. I know how it has to be done. Historically, using human nature and history, I know how it has to be done. Did the movies, the series of TV shows and movies, The Purge, mean anything to you? Are y'all aware of that? Where once a year you're allowed to you lock yourself up and people are allowed to run around the streets murdering whoever they want for whatever reason, and there's no prosecution. They just clean the bodies up in the morning. Have you looked at history? How is it that Japan was able to join the modern Western world so effectively after World War II? Well, it was the Americans that occupied Japan. No, it wasn't. Something had to be done first. What was done to Japan that changed their culture so radically? We almost exterminated them. The Code of Bushido was beat out of Japan by the United States military in World War II. What was it about the Muslims that made them leave the United States alone for 150 years? It was Jefferson and the United States Marine Corps and the U.S. Navy. We made it be known to them that the United States was ready and willing and able to exterminate them if they didn't leave us alone. So they did. And the Muslims found out about that again in the Philippines under Blackjack Pershing. We put a belt to their butt. Yes, exactly, Delta Rose. We put a belt to their butt. How did you exterminate fascism in Europe? We eliminated their countries. We just razed them to the ground. How are you going to right the wrongs in this country? The Bible tells me that you have to eliminate evil from amongst yourselves. Whoops, that's not what I want. Sorry. I was trying to clear my screen. I apologize. That's what the death penalty is for, is to eliminate evil from amongst yourselves. Now, we have a political party that lets evil out of jail. And we have American citizens, law-abiding, tax-paying citizens, being murdered on a routine basis by people who have decades-long career criminal histories. Society, a polite society, governed by the rule of law, has absolutely no obligation to tolerate you. If you're going to prove that you do not wish to live within the civil society, and you do not have a frontier to be exiled to, where you can live away from polite people, then society has every right to just execute you. There should not be any life in prison sentences. If you get life in prison, it should be an execution. The people have no obligation to provide for your sustenance after you have proven you have no desire to live in a polite and civil society. And that's what government is instituted to do. Our government is no longer doing that. Our government is actively siding with lawlessness, Republicans and Democrats alike. Our government is far more lawless and far more wicked and evil, far more tyrannical than King George was at the time of our revolution. We have been patient far longer than the founding fathers were. It is time to do something about it. I'm not the one that people would follow. I don't know how to lead it. Maybe Elon Musk. I don't trust his politics, but he might be able to get something done. Maybe. I no longer trust Trump. I gave him a chance. He told me, elect me, I'll give you the Epstein files. Now he's telling me, why are you still worried about that crap? I'm in office. That's all that mattered. That's what I thought, you megalomaniac, egotistical narcissist. Yeah, I know that upsets some of you Trump fans, but it's not just Epstein. It's a lot of things he has not delivered on, and he doesn't care anymore. Ms. Stratton says, if he's following Hitler, why is he countering the collective mentality powers instead of capitalist powers? Okay. How much do you know about Adolf Hitler? Trump is following Hitler. Hitler was a fascist in the sense that he would allow you to own your own private properties so long as you used it to do his agenda. And Hitler was such a good fascist that even in the middle of the worst year of the war for Germany, when it all turned in 1943 and early 44, when things were starting to get so horrendous for Germany, their cities were being burned to the ground on a nightly basis. Hitler was still making sure that the German people had movies, chocolate, sugar. He was trying hard to appease them economically to keep them on his side. This is very similar to what Trump is doing today. Very similar. No, it is not the same flavor of ice cream. It is, however, the same methodology. Hitler incorporated the business industries, and he rewarded those who went along with him, and he punished those that didn't. He could have saved his cities in the night bombing. Now, this is very trivial stuff. Most people are not going to understand this, but I do. Let me just explain to you how this happens. There were competing aircraft industries in Germany in World War II. There was a gentleman by the name of Heinkel. He was an aircraft designer. He designed a night fighter. It was the Heinkel 219. Uhu. It's German for owl. And Hitler did not like Heinkel. He preferred Willy Messerschmitt for personal reasons that became political. So Messerschmitt got favored, and Junkers, another aircraft designer. These are all German aircraft companies. And his name was Junkers. Hitler, Willy Messerschmitt was a favorite of Hitler's, so he had preference. Junkers, Hitler didn't care one way or the other about him. So why is this important? Well, the Messerschmitt 110, it was the primary German night fighter. It was not a very good night fighter. Middle end of the war, I mean, it still did the job, but it was not very good. And the British bombing, they were the ones who were primarily just burning Germans to the ground every night. It wasn't the Americans. It was the British. So you needed to stop those bombers. Well, the night fighters were more effective than the day fighters. The Germans had an opportunity to defeat the British night bombing and save their cities. Had they built the Heinkel 219 in 1943, they probably could have done it. The Heinkel 219 was a monster of a night fighter. It was very effective. And it could even defend itself against Allied night fighters. Had there not been the political animosity in the Hitler's administration, Heinkel would have been allowed to do his thing. We have this same thing going on in the United States now. Trump, wanting to be favored by the people, pushed, Operation Warp Speed. We get the jab. Now, why isn't he going after Fauci and the pharmaceutical industry for the mass murder that happened? Because his name is attached to it. He can't. So he won't. That's the surface explanation. That is very Hitler-esque. Very Hitler-esque. Also, some of these things about expanding territory. Lebensraum, living room. Well, that is very Hitler-esque. We're going into Venezuela, call that Czechoslovakia. We're going to go into maybe Cuba, call that Norway. He didn't go into Czechoslovakia for no reason because it was Germans. He needed the resources out of Czechoslovakia. That gave him access to oil. He didn't go into Norway for anything other than to secure his access to certain minerals, metals, and stuff like that he needed for production. Hitler didn't invade anybody without a purpose for it. He invaded Denmark because he needed the access to the open water oceans. He didn't need anybody impeding in his navy's access to the Bering Sea. And if he hadn't gone after Denmark, the Allies could have restricted that movement. It wasn't until he invaded Belgium and France in the West, and that was still more Lebensraum, and then he invaded Russia for the same reason. Well, Hitler's doing the same thing. I need, Greenland for U.S. defense. Well, I need Russia for German defense. We've survived this long. You don't need Greenland. You just need a stronger NATO alliance if that's what you're worried about. Or you find a way to deal with Russia in a way that you can sustain, where you no longer have to worry about Russia attacking you. So Hitler is, there are parallels to what's going on in this country between Hitler and Trump. The left is not wrong. The left's parallels are closer to Stalin and Lenin and Mao. So it's the same old fight that Hitler had. It's communism versus fascism. Now, if you want to see even more parallels, leave Hitler behind and go study Mussolini. Oh, okay. Trump is very Mussolini-esque, but so was Obama. Right down to the little pose that Obama used to like to make. That's Mussolini all day long right there, Jack, with the chin in the air. It's the spirit of the man. Mussolini, Hitler, Trump, Obama. It's the spirit of the person. I got kicked off the local talk radio show here in 2012 for pointing out that we were following the path of 1920s Germany. You are now in very late stages of 1930s Germany. You have Antifa back in the streets of the United States. That Antifa goes all the way back to 1920s Germany. Same logo. Stands for anti-fascista. It's the same name. They're communists fighting fascists. We imported this with Operation Paperclip. We literally imported the fascists. We already had the communists here thanks to FDR and Wilson. You don't know your history. That's all it is, folks. We don't know our history. I do. I study it because I like it, because I'm also understanding, and you're going to get this explained to you in the coming weeks. You cannot be a Christian without studying history. Can't be a good Jew without you cannot be a follower of Yahweh if you don't study history. History is part and parcel to the revealed law. I did not fully understand that until just yesterday. I do now. Because Yahweh is all about relationship. And the study and understanding of your history gives you a relationship with the people of the past, which helps you better understand the people of the present, which is supposed to help us choose who we will be in the future. It's paganism to think you live in the here and now and that the past is irrelevant and the future doesn't matter either. That is sheer paganism, Gnosticism. I now understand that the progressive movement, the Russian, all of these things, that all secular humanism is Gnosticism. It's a heresy. I get it. I now understand it. We criticize Trump, but we offer no replacement to him. I'm waiting. I know that. I know, Barbara. I'm well aware of that. And it's a legitimate criticism of me and those like me. You're correct. I accept it. But there is no replacement for Trump until the American people repent, turn back, and seek the face of Yahweh. We're not going to do that. And the reason that there will be no replacement for Trump is because we can't agree on who or what we are or want to be anymore. So even if I told you who we should replace him with, and I was perfectly correct, biblically and in the material world, correct in both realms, you wouldn't listen. So what's it matter? The gate is open, and the man of 2 Thessalonians 2 has been revealed, and the church has stopped doing its job. It no longer binds or looses. I don't know the answer. I wish I did. I mean, ultimately, I do. Nobody wants to hear that the answer is Yahweh and his Messiah, the Yeshua. But that's how this nation was formed, relying on the God of the Bible. Not my words, the founding fathers' words. And every time I tell people we've got to go back to what worked, they don't want to listen. We are in the days of Noah. Everybody does what they think is right. I'm not pointing to Joe. Joe doesn't have the answer. I'm pointing back to the people who made this country the first time. And they point to the God of the Bible. So ultimately, I'm pointing you back to Yahweh and Yeshua. But we can't even agree on that. Scripture tells us that if the house is divided, it cannot stand. We are so divided. I don't know how many people we can have that two or more to gather together in his name and actually be gathered together in the name of the true Messiah anymore. I don't even know if I'm one of them anymore, to be honest with you. I don't know. I don't know. But I'm not going to give up. I can't. It's not in my nature. It's not in my blood. Yes, I know. Deltro says Yeshua couldn't even win an election. If he were here today, he wouldn't even win a primary. Charlie, you have anything before we split? Call it a day.
Well, yeah, I do actually. I think because we're talking about this, and Barbara's got a good point here. What do we do? How do we solve this and such? And hopefully, if we accomplish what we're hoping to do here on this show, over the next few weeks and months and possibly even a year, those solutions will be there, but they're not the solutions you think. Yes, exactly. Individually, yes. Collectively, I don't think that it's in the cards for this nation to be, as the Mormons think it's going to be, saved by the elders of Israel and the Constitution restored. And I don't think that's going to happen. We're going to follow the same path that ancient Israel followed as they fell and were sent into captivity. That's what I think is going to happen, because that lines up with history and it lines up with the transcendent view of the world, because Yahweh does not change. And so that's really the big point, is Yahweh doesn't change. So why would we think that our punishment is going to be different than that of the ancients?
Do you know why this country succeeded with the founding fathers? It's not because they sought first their own liberty and their own wealth. They sought first the kingdom, and all else was provided to them as a result. We no longer seek first the kingdom.
No.
It's that simple.
We're trying to, and you see this repeated over and over and over again in the Bible, where even prophets of old, tried to take things into their own hands and do it their way. And, Yahweh was patient with them in many, many cases, but ultimately they finally figured it out that, oh, no. I need to trust in Yahweh and do it his way and wait on him. Because sometimes it takes Yahweh a while to get around to doing what he says he's going to do, but he does get around to doing it. And part of that, I think, is testing us to see if we will remain faithful and leave it in his hands instead of trying to fix it ourselves.
Yeah. Stick with us. I'm not, this can be depressing. But before, like in boot camp, man, I keep going back to military ways of looking at things, but in boot camp, they tear you down before they build you back up.
Yeah.
And that's because you got to get that old way of thinking out of your head. We have got to understand we're not voting our way out of this.
No.
That's not what's going to happen. And there's no guarantee we're going to get out of this. But we got to get out of it by reversing how we got into it. And we got into it by losing our faith. And the only way we're going to get out of this is to get back to our faith, the true way of walking according to Yahweh's ordinances. I'm not talking about works.
No.
We got to get back in line with the way he expects the universe to work. At the very least, natural law.
Yeah.
According to Locke, not Hobbes. According to Locke. And if
we
you
have to
read
put
Locke,
trust in Yahweh.
Yeah,
I used trust
Locke,
instead of faith, didn't I? Yeah, because that's what, go to the Hebrew definition of it. That's really what it means, is to put your trust in Yahweh and rely on him to do what he says he's going to do, because he will. Mm-hmm. He will. He's not one of the, and this is where these worldviews collide, is when we try to influence Yahweh to do what we want. That's where we get into trouble.
When we build the golden calf.
Well, yeah, we're trying to tell Yahweh, okay, you're going to do it my way. You're going to, you need to do it. You need to do it my, no. You need to switch that and flip that and say, Yahweh, how do you want me to do this? And if you do that with that attitude, even if you screw it up, he'll still uphold you and help you through it. And, he might punish you, for screwing up, but then he's going to say, as long as you remain faithful, he'll turn around and he'll help you to fix it.
Boopa 73 points out something that's actually true. Trump and Hitler are both technocrats. Now, hold on to that. There's, depending on how you mean technocrat, but if you're thinking about technology, you're correct there. They rely on technology because Hitler was always the wonder weapons were going to save him. Communists always want to go back to serfdom. Communists want to put you back on the farm and make you poor and live as a serf. The other side of this, the fascists are usually looking at technology to solve all their problems. And if that's what Boopa means by technocrat, yeah, that's another similarity. I'm not wanting to call Trump Hitler. Don't take that the wrong way. I'm saying we're following the same path.
Yeah,
and that's another thing.
Pattern, not exactly the same
when he
thing,
was
right.
early,
different, but
early on, Hitler invoked Christianity, but he hated Christians. He considered them weak, but he used their name. Now, eventually, he replaced the pictures of Christ in the schools with pictures of the Führer himself. So the parallels are there. Okay. Trump telling everybody on national TV, I got nothing to apologize for. I've never done anything wrong. Y'all realize he's declaring himself to be at least the Messiah when he says that?
Yeah. And most recently he was asked by a reporter, is there anything constraining his actions? And he says, no, nothing but the morality of my own mind.
Exactly.
And so,
he's claiming to be a god.
Like you like to relate it. It's not the same ice cream. It's a different flavor, perhaps, but it's still ice cream.
Yeah, it's of the same
in
spirit.
general. Still think of
Tower of Babel, which means Tower of Confusion.
Yeah,
we're just trying. Okay, folks, look. I'm going to get serious with this in 2026 to try and help you bring some clarity out of all of this for yourself.
Yes. Yes.
Personal clarity. We start tomorrow. I'm going to do a show tomorrow on philosophy, and it'll probably be tomorrow and the second part on Thursday of this week. This show has to, this lesson on philosophy has to get out of the way before we go any further. You have to understand what it is and how to do it and why it is important to you. You are either going to have a developed personal philosophy, or your philosophy is going to, you're going to control it, or it's going to control you. But we all have a philosophy. I'm going to explain this to you tomorrow. This is crucial. And until we get this teaching out of the way, I don't want to go any forward any further. This has got to be done so that we all have this one under our belt. This is going to be the foundation that everything else I build on for you this year is going to be founded. Scripture, yes, but folks, your Bible is a philosophy. It is the philosophy. And if every human being in the world was serious about learning the philosophy in their scripture, the world would be a lot better off. Perfect? No, but a lot better off than it is now. There was a time in human history when a great many more people than today did just that. Tried to live according to the scriptures, reminded each other to live according to the scriptures. And in general terms, the world was still better off, much better off than it is today. We just don't look at history through the proper lens. I'm going to try and show that to you coming up. You have to look at it through the lens of war, but you have to think of it as homeland during wartime. Where is the homeland? We'll get to that in the future. Hopefully, I can help you see and understand the way I've started looking at things. And it has been a huge paradigm shift for me, but I'm starting to get all my little blocks got messed up the last 2 weeks. I'm starting to get them all back down in a row. I'll show you what I'm seeing. And hopefully, if I'm successful, gosh, I don't know if I can be. Could need Yahweh to help me with this one. But on the other end of it, you'll be a lot more peace in your heart. No matter what happens in this world, there'll be a lot more peace for you in your heart.
Yep. There's a comment from Clay there, but we're way over
that.
time.
Yeah,
I don't know if you want to tackle that animal.
Mr. Toller says Trump is the only one that has the backbone to do it. Needs to be done. Then let me ask you something, Mr. Toller. Why are all these blue states still under the governorship of their governors? Why is California still have Newsom? Why is Waltz still governor? Why is the governor of Washington? Trump has the constitutional
and why
authority
is Hillary
to remove
not
these
in
people.
prison?
Yeah, why is Hillary not in prison? Why is Obama not in prison? Why is Fauci not in prison? Why is Gates not having to justify himself and his actions? Why is Soros not in prison? Why are there still members in the FBI and DOJ who helped hunt the J6 community, hound them to the corners of the earth? When we know that January 6th was a false flag, wag the dog attack, why are they still in high levels of position within the government? Where's the backbone to do what needs to be done? All I hear is talk. Promises of investigations that haven't even started yet. All I hear is talk. There's a song about that. Talk, talk, talk. I want to see the, well, yeah, talk, Pilgrim, but y'all walk the walk? No, not yet. Not yet, Joker. I don't see the walk. No. I'm not going to rely on a human being anymore. My trust is entirely in the Messiah. You can join me or not. That's the focus. This is a biblically oriented worldview show. The Road to Concord is scriptural prophecy. I can show it to you. Our next book study that starts in February will show that march to Concord for you. This is a promised land in the prophecies. It was promised to Ephraim. Ephraim was also promised that he would follow his prophetic pattern. We are doing that right now. This is prophecy and fulfillment. I'm going to try and show it to you this year. I'm going to try and explain what we should do with it as believers. If you're not a believer, this show is not going to sit well with you. You belong to a different universe, literally. If you don't believe in the God of the Bible, you belong to a different universe. And that universe cannot coexist with this one. It's like matter and antimatter. I live in your universe, but I don't belong to it. I belong to a different world. And the two ways of doing things are so antithetical to each other that they cannot coexist. They were never meant to. Not in the way that most people think of coexist. So what's coming is going to be very different from what I've been doing the last few years. You're either going to stay with me or you're not. That's your choice. I don't care. I'm going to start answering to my calling, which I've gotten away from. And that's a large part of the reason that I've lost my focus, is because I started looking at started playing with, ooh, precious, my precious. No. Back to obedience. I became part of the problem. No more apologies. Biblical worldview show as best I understand the scriptures. Period. What am I going to tell you? Truth as I see it. Capital T truth. You like it, you like it. You don't, you don't. Do with it what you will. It is still an act of love. It's definitely an agape love. That's all I can say. Share the show if you want to share it. Don't if you don't. Like it if you like it. Subscribe. That'll help the show a lot. But, this is in Yahweh's hands now. I'm done. I'm just going to be an obedient servant. And until then, tomorrow's a philosophy day. Got things in your homework for you. Go to theroadtoconcord.com. Look up the homework assignment. It's show 581. So show 581 and 582 will be off of those links. And we'll get to them starting tomorrow. Until then, y'all stay safe. Take care. We love you. Bye-bye.